California Institute for Men at Chino. This is home to convicted felons, many of whom hail from Orange County. It's an impersonal place, even threatening to the uninitiated, and gang activity is alive, even in this strictly disciplined environment. Normal routine at Chino allows prisoners only 10 hours of outside activity each week. That means working out, baseball, and hours of circling the compound under the watchful eyes of the armed guard in the tower. Indoors, inmates are restricted to cell blocks where two men may live in a room the size of a small bathroom. Contact is reduced to shouts from one cell to another, and meals are served directly to the cell to reduce movement in confined spaces. Chino was built in 1941 to hold about 2,500 men. Nearly 50 years later, it holds 6,000, 2.5 times its intended capacity. The overcrowding leads to unnatural stresses.
Of course, the inmates are strained on the fact that they are housed sometimes in day rooms, card rooms, gymnasiums, open dorm settings.
While prison officials recognize that they have far exceeded the capacity of design, they feel their hands are tied by the courts.
We just start taking them in as the courts present them to us.
This may be an immediate solution for keeping criminals off the street, argue criminologists, but they say it does very little in terms of preparing a convict for his return to society.
And I have a feel for how the victims, the hostility they feel, want to punish them, more prisons and so forth. Not doing very much. I feel that hostility too. I'd like to do something to them, but in terms of what it accomplished for society is not very much.
Instead, supporters of this philosophy argue that prisons exist strictly for punishment and say that doesn't protect society.
No matter what you do, it's not enough because we want to punish them, so more prisons and so forth. So that's another thing you have to handle in society. What are productive ways to go rather than more and more prisons? We need it for vindictiveness, but in terms of reality, it is not producing the effects we want.
And the Santa Ana police chief agrees that prisons don't work.
It's really a failure, I think. When that's the only recourse you have, then you've failed as a society.
In fact, Paul Walters is willing to send adults to jail, but he says he and his department are now committing much of their combined resource towards keeping people out of the system, beginning when they're teenagers.
What we do is when they're first time they get involved is we really support a diversion program. First-time offenders, it's done in Spanish and English. It's called a Short Stop program, and that whole thing is to make them realize what their life's going to be like if they continue.